your restream. We're live. Um, Hello,
We
everybody.
are. Oh, they heard us
Hi.
talking shit about everybody. I was talking crap
What's that?
about everybody. They heard us. They heard us talking
I,
crap about everybody.
I don't know because it's glitching on my end, so I don't know if they got to hear that.
Did y'all hear? Hey, hold on, wait. Who's in the chat?
You got KJ and Kyle from Outside In Aquatics.
Kyle, did you hear what I was talking about you? Put a thumbs up if you heard what I said about you.
What were you saying about them fish room punks? Those punks.
Funk's upset that he's not a punk yet.
I already explained that
Oh,
whole scenario.
I
That
know,
whole
I
scenario.
know, I know. I'm just
That'll pop up every
giving him a
once
Funk's
hard
in a
his
time.
while.
own punk.
Yeah, I know that's a little scab that I can pull once in a while and get him going.
Like
Well, I think thanks
I
to
wouldn't put me as a punk. What are y'all talking about? I never end up in the stream. He always streams at some other time. I never go there. Like, why
well,
would I do that?
he's gonna make a fish room punk about basement breeders and how I was going off about that the one time. I'm looking forward to that card.
Yeah.
I got a couple names
uh,
he can associate with that
well,
card.
he's gonna make him as the swamp man since I don't know why he
Nice.
got tagged as a swamp tanker.
He's a
But
freaking
he's
idiot.
far
That's
from
why.
it. But yeah, I
He's a big
know.
loser.
Well, let's see who else. Who else is joining us? We're still waiting on a couple of guys to come in. Look, if the reason this is all fault because I
It's
live
always your fault.
in a place where we don't believe in time changes, and when I scheduled this, I didn't realize that this weekend was supposed to be the spring
I didn't
forward
either.
time, so I kind of
I
jacked
didn't
up
know
the
either.
whole schedule.
I didn't know either.
And because we don't move, everybody adjusts to us. So but I had to go back and change the schedule at last minute, and if you want going live and asking me to post this morning or this afternoon, I would have had no clue, and I would have been thinking it was really late. I was trying to be reasonable
I
because for the East Coast it's already 8 o'clock, so now we're 3 hour difference.
I saved the day, everybody. If it wasn't for me, everything would be screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
Weren't we originally 9 on our side?
I don't even know. I
Originally, I
didn't
I
thought
know
we had to
when.
swore
put it
we
at
were.
8.
All right. See, I'm like I told you,
Yeah,
I between the mini stroke and the cognitive issues, tomato, I got you. We're here.
yeah. I think I had put it in the chat that if clock was good for you guys, and you guys were like, yeah, because it was kind of a reasonable time.
No,
It's
I
not
like
too
the
late
8.
for being a weekday.
Yep.
Yeah.
So hold on, wait. Let me ask you a
So, but
question.
then I
On
screwed it up.
Restream,
Yeah.
if you schedule the time to go on, does it automatically just go on, or do you have to hit a button?
No, I have to hit a button. I have to hit the
Oh,
go
okay.
live button.
Okay. I was like, oh, that could suck
Yeah, because
if
we
I
we
didn't
went
know that.
over. We were talking for a little
Yeah.
bit before the countdown had gone down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, anyways, the whole purpose of this, or how this even live stream was generated, was by a phone call that I made, and it was accidental. I reached out to Dan to ask him a question about some inventory that he was going to get, and me not really thinking much about it. I thought it's regular business as usual. It's business as usual. Come to find out that he was having some issues about it, and then I realized, oh shoot, there's a reason going on, and that kind of started that whole idea of, this is something that we don't necessarily discuss in the hobby, is how, what do you want to call them, global events, and it's not always necessarily like war right now that's going on in the Middle East, but it could be other stuff. It could be natural. It could be political. So always these things that seem to be like chain reaction and really do create issues. And who better to have that conversation with than people that are in the industry, whether they're shop owners, whether they are wholesalers. And that was the idea behind trying to get the group of people that I invited to be here today. But like I said, I kind of messed that up because I kind of created confusion with the scheduling.
Sucks so bad. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. We still talk about it.
I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you. I think it's a
So
great
that's
subject matter, and I don't think enough people actually do talk about it. Like, especially for me at the shop, I had customers will come in and they're like, "Are you going to get this next week? Are you going to get this next week? Why can't you get this? Why can't you get that?" And like, I'll have conversations about the rainy season, the dry season, and it's not just conflict. There's a bazillion reasons why you can't get fish every week from every single place. And it's funny because a lot of people kind of look at me confused and they don't understand, and then finally I'll just look at them and be like, it's malaria season, they can't collect because it's malaria season, and I'll just get an oh. um but I even, like, I used to follow Alex from Fishery a lot with regards to conflict, what was on trend, and he usually does this. I don't know if he does it every year, but like I know, like, from COVID on through, he tends to talk about it. And it's a shame because those are the videos that don't get a lot of views. And I wish they got more views because this is very relevant to our industry. I mean, it's relevant in the economics of anything, as far as, stuff, putting stuff on a plane, putting stuff on a boat, whatever. There's, economic issues, the tariffs are affecting importing and exporting. But like, that being said, a lot of customers that are in at least our hobby don't factor any of this in as to why I can't get their puffer next week. But
Yeah.
sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
no.
Oh, the part that I would found it really interesting is that I thought this was like a recent phenomenon that you guys have been experiencing in the industry, but in talking to you on the phone, I didn't really think about it. But this is something that's been happening since, well,
Forever.
most recently would have been since the pandemic was kind of like the kickoff,
Mhm.
the big kickoff, and then after that we had the tariffs, and then after the tariffs, now we have this war that's going on.
Yep.
So you in the industry been having a creative and resourceful when it comes to trying to continue to bring in a constant inventory. And
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Let me throw a little curveball in there. So 25 years ago, back in 2000, when I first started in the industry, here's the funny thing. It was before the internet, right? Before the internet, it was Seagrass. They kind of everybody got Seagrass crap. And it was before the internet. So I don't know if y'all realize it. And if you guys been around keeping fish for a long, long, long time, you think back to 25 years ago, everybody had the same crap. Everywhere you went was the same thing. And a lot of it was from here in Florida. So it wasn't as big of a deal because it all came from here in Florida because nobody knew any better. Nobody knew about hill stream loaches or pea puffers or any of that crap. You know what I mean? I mean, I remember the two biggest fish I remember for 25 years ago was a flower horn, and that wasn't even really a flower horn. It was a trimac that people kept calling a flower horn, and the electric blue Acara and the electric blue Jack Dempsey, the three. But now people are learning about so many fish that people are having to go outside to get them. So yeah, I remember now that the internet and all that, and people have newer horizons that they can, their minds are expanded. Yeah, now we have to go outside the country to get this stuff because we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot because we're not breeding them here.
Well,
I
that's
just thought
why
that
I'm
was funny.
always promoting for local breeders to work with local stores.
Yeah,
And I mean, even again, COVID, that was the prime opportunity. But again, I
yeah,
think they missed it on that. But it's not just conflict, though. I mean, you also have just industrialization and urbanization. And I mean, okay, we can talk global warming and all that good stuff. But again, when you develop on the land, like, or tribes fighting with one another, it's not just big wigs or what's going on in Iran right now. Like, you have local tribes that fight, and not to sound mean, but the white man ichthyologist, marine biologist, they can't just walk through the forest and go collect something and discover something new. It doesn't work that way. Again, Colombia, they shut down trade for however many months so that again they can conserve, they can re-up their natural tributaries and waterways. So it's like a culmination of absolutely everything, but conflict. When you have 12 countries that you can't fly a plane over, or you have waterways that you can't go through, that's even beyond, a tribal war in the Congo per se. But there's just forever factors. And again, the more like, and it's affecting even hill stream loaches right now. They're building dams. So that's the end of the river. That's the end of the river flow. Therefore, less oxygenation. Therefore, no hill stream loaches. So things that we're just discovering are instantly becoming endangered because, again, it's not just wild collectors poaching, it's big industry developing on that land. And now it's game over for the new discovery, just newly discovered fish. Sorry, brain fart.
So, let me ask this because this is something that obviously that I wasn't aware of. So the importation of all these newer species, is that something that's relatively new to the hobby then? It's not something that's been, you see, because when I was in the hobby, I was like what Frank said, it was just the staple stuff that you would see at stores. And then I went away for more than 20 years, 30 years, come back, and all of a sudden when I come back, there's this whole new side of the hobby that I didn't know existed. And so I always assume that the stuff we're seeing today has always been here, but it sounds like that's a relatively new
It
phenomena.
was super nichey, super nichey. Like only like people in like all these old guys from fish clubs would know about him, but you'd probably see him in a magazine, of somebody like that German dude that hangs out in Colombia for years and years and years, and
Hmm,
who discovered a
Michael,
bunch of damn fish. Yeah, he you'd see him, but that was always like, oh, that's unattainable for the average person. But with internet and the demand for it, if there's a demand for something, somebody's gonna figure out how to make money on it. You know what I
That's
mean?
what I was gonna say. Money talks. Like
Yeah.
if you listen to and Rick is really good. So Rick Bureau over at Florida Exotic Fish Co. or I'm sorry, Florida Exotic Fish Farms. So he used to go over to Africa. He'd go over to Lake Tanganyika and stuff like that as teen years, college years, and there were only specific cichlids being pulled from the water because there was big money in that area of the water, and that's all there was to it. And then Rick was like, but explore more. The lake is
Yeah.
huge. Like, why aren't you going here? Why aren't you going there? And one, it's because the local people there are being paid shit wage to go in the water and go find these things. But there's big money for the exporter. The exporter is the one naming their price.
Yeah.
Like I knew a guy that knew a guy. Well, I knew a guy who knew a guy in the Congo that was pulling elephant nose and things of that nature. But there's certain times you're not allowed to pull certain things. And then there was other areas that you weren't supposed to pull things, but there was some albinos laying around. And as long as he paid the right price to the person that he was talking to over there that had their wild collectors or tribesmen or people that were willing to do things for pennies on the dollar, they were going to go get that fish.
Some
But in
strange belief.
American money, that $1,000 was spent, but then that person that actually collected maybe got $2. It's sad to say it that way, but that's also another reason why these newly discovered species are coming over here, and it's because we have the money to burn. We import a crap ton of stuff, whereas like the Middle Eastern countries work amongst themselves. They export to each other. Same with European countries, they export to each other. But for us to import, we pay big money, and we
Yeah.
also are never going to see the good stuff
Yeah.
because not that they're greedy, they don't want to give it to us. And there's lots
Yeah.
of reasons. And one of the main reasons is we don't take care of things properly. We don't listen.
Yeah.
The biosecurity quality that they have in other countries compared to us, you know, and again, it was big money in Florida. Look at how many fish farms there were. Now look at how many fish farms there are, because the big money's not there. The
Yeah.
money it cost us more to feed the fish on the fish farms in Florida than what you're paying to receive the fish from another country and
Mhm.
just flip it in America. So it's a shame. Like, there's a bazillion reasons why cool stuff
Yep.
comes in here, and then there's also a bazillion reasons why we're not producing good lines of cool stuff like other countries are. And it's, for us, it's greed.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why I
Hundred
was,
percent.
I always found it very interesting, um, that other countries, especially like in the European countries, that we would have Amazon fish that were better quality than the stuff we were pulling from the wild, and that has always, been very interesting to me. Well, come to find out is that they're actually working on lines, and they
Hmm.
might not have a they're focusing on certain fish and trying to create the best fish that they can.
Hmm.
I like, for example, I didn't know the Czech Republic was a really sought out market for quality fish. You would think they would all be from South America because that's
Nope.
where they're originating from. I mean, a large bulk of them. There's obviously fish from Asia and other parts of the world, but when people automatically think of the fish hobby, at least in my situation, you think Amazon River. That's kind of the
Right.
Amazon area. And so and just the other day I had a conversation with Dr. Anthony, and that's one of the things that I was asking him. I said, how much is the sustainable farming, creating of lines in South America? And he says it's really not a thing. A lot
No.
of it is wild collected stuff that gets taken to wholesalers to
Hmm.
export.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, okay, so that was kind of interesting. But
Yeah.
hey, Dan, thank you so much for joining us. Sorry for all the mix-ups on my schedules. I was not accounting for the time change, so when I scheduled it, I guess it kind of automatically defaulted for 9 p.m. instead of 8 o'clock for you guys.
No, you're good. I just got stuck in traffic on my way home. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna run a little late, but I'll
That's
get
all
it
right.
done.
So so we got started here. Obviously, we didn't go through the formalities of kind of introducing who the guests are. So let's take a step back. Luis, since you've already been talking, for those people that are not aware with you, would you kind of explain to us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Louise. I own a local tropical fish store in Pennsylvania called Elite Menagerie Habitats. I've been in the hobby a little over 20 years. Originally wanted to be a marine biologist, and unfortunately, I didn't choose that path in college. I ended up getting in the criminal justice kind of realm for about 25 years. And when I wanted out, I ended up purchasing a tropical fish store about 4 years ago. And that was the closest I was going to get to marine biology. So, hi.
And then Dan, if you don't mind giving us a little bit of your background.
Yeah, so I'm a second generation fish farmer here in Florida. I own a tropical fish wholesale company where we sell to pet stores all across the U.S. We also sell to other distribution companies, and we also own a local, like just local fish store for retail on site that we do some for the local people there. And I've been in this business pretty much my whole life. I did take a stint out. I actually went and taught high school that taught aquaculture or production practices for high school when I worked with high school kids to get certifications in this field. Because in Florida, outside of just aquarium fish, we have like 5 different types of aquaculture. So I worked on getting industry certifications for those kids where they could take these sort of experience type classes and tests in order to get certified so they could have jobs on field when they got out of high school. These are the kids that typically weren't going to college most of the time.
Okay.
And that's what I focused. I did that for about 9 years and then decided to come back because I didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, I know Louise was mentioning that there's been a change in the industry as far as the import of goods versus what used to be stateside. And you being a fish farmer, and I know we kind of talked a little bit about it when we did the tour of your facility. But what are some of the things that have impacted the industry here in the States from your perspective?
Yeah, so on top of just being a farmer, we also buy from other local farms, but we do import a lot of fish to cover the difference of what's not produced here in Florida. And it's all relatively recent for us. So ever since the war happened, all of our fish that come in on the East Coast come in through Dubai. Everything we buy transits through there. And then from there, we typically get it into Orlando. That's the closest international airport that things will fly to. And we'll get into there. But since they closed that Dubai airspace, it has forced us to now go the other direction, which is crazy because the other direction will go from whatever Asian country we're buying from, whether that be Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, all of them route this other way. They will go from whatever country they're coming from to Hong Kong, to Anchorage, Alaska to refuel, and then no more stops and directly from Anchorage to Miami. And then we have to go Miami pickup, which is 5 hours away. By the time you get the boxes and clear them, you're probably another 2 hours down there and 5 hours back. So it's like a 12-hour round trip for us to now go pick up fish versus what used to be an hour and a half. So
Yeah, I know
it's
that.
definitely impacted us on that front. And then on top of that, a new thing that's come up is the new fuel surcharges on all the airlines. And that is 72 hours new. So now because fuel is being tightened because the Strait of Hormuz is closed, fuel is going up by over 30 to 40%. So those surcharges are matching. And that's bringing freight up another 10, 15% on top of that. And then on top of tariffs. So it's getting quite expensive to import on this coast. So we're always looking for new options or alternatives. So right now we're just kind of eating the bullet and moving along. But that's the reality we're in at the moment.
So is the market already starting to notice a lack of inventory that is not coming into to the U.S.?
I don't think so as far as lack of inventory. It just shuffled a lot of things last minute. So it kind of delayed things by like a week or two at most. But I don't think we're seeing a whole lot of lack of stuff in the country. It's just all the importers are reshuffling their flights and figuring out, where do we go from here? And it's truthfully just affecting the East Coast guys more than the West Coast guys. The West Coast guys,
Yeah.
it's basically unaffected as far as flights and stuff because it's all coming that direction anyway. It's a lot of the East Coast guys it's really affecting the most.
You were shaking your head, Louise.
Yeah, no, the last 2 weeks, the wholesale lists are much different. A lot of wholesalers couldn't get certain things, at least again for my local area. And again, East Coast wholesalers, the lists are definitely different over the last 2 weeks. And it's not like the bread and butter, especially Florida bread and butter, that's perfectly fine. But like guppies took a hit. In Iran, they actually do a lot of African Rift Lake cichlids, so that I saw that menu changed a lot over the last 2 weeks. Surprisingly, and I didn't know, but there's also a lot of discus that come out of Iran, and I did not know that. I use a local guy, but I saw that menu change with two of my wholesalers. And then I've got a local wholesaler out here that I don't really use. But they usually do like an intro, like this is what's going on for the week, this is how it's been, and like their list was much different because of like again what Dan was saying, trying to juggle things and figure out how they're going to fix the problem, or they stop using certain places because again fuel surcharges, extra fees, and the extra time lag as far as how long the fish are going to be in a bag. And I think that has to do, and I don't know if Dan wants to chime in on this one, but I also think it has a lot to do with the wholesaler themselves. If they're working with cheaper exporters, cheaper quality fish, and not good quality, then they're going to stop working with those places because now the fish are going to be in the bag even longer and fall susceptible to even more problems because of the lag on the delivery. And I'm not saying that about Dan, I'm saying it about certain wholesalers. When I saw that like certain things were completely off the menu, I'm like, well, that was already a crap fish. If it's got to be in the bag longer, no wonder you're not bringing it in. And I'm sorry that I'm laughing about that, but like like you can kind of read between the lines with certain wholesalers when I saw like just specific lists that I usually don't use those companies anyway. And it's tragic to know that there are places out there they'll do anything to save a buck, but this is not, you're not saving in any way, shape, or form right now to be in this in particular industry. We're getting hammered left and right in extra fees, and it's sad. And again, this is where it would be great if hobbyists would unite and we could make more stuff happen here in the States, because look at what we're up against. It's just going to be like, for me, I sell a lot of exotic oddball things. For me, it's going to be, probably a good month and a half of me being like, yeah, no, impossible to get right now. Sorry. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Joe had just popped in here, but he must be having connection
He was at a
issues 'cause he
restaurant.
dropped. But yeah, I did. I think he's the shop should be open. So I don't know what he's doing right now, but hopefully he'll rejoin us. When he does, I'll let him introduce himself and what he's kind of doing. But yeah, no, like I said, all of this really got started by a phone call that was placed. and it was to Dan that I called him up, and he was kind of explaining to you what the current situation was, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, I hadn't really thought
So
about that. What's the effect? Go ahead, Funk.
so let's talk about this. Dan, the we can't talk to the transshippers because we don't have any transshippers here. So Dan is a wholesaler. Luis is a LFS owner. Let's talk about the price from the wholesaler, from Dan, then go to Luis, and let's talk about that part of it, that aspect of it. Let's talk about neon tetras. Let's start with that one.
We'll talk about
Dan, we'll
price.
start with you. Yeah, this whole thing that's starting out. This whole thing started out. What's the impact on the price of? We're just gonna say a neon. Let's say a neon tetra. How's this impact the wholesaler, and then we'll go to Luis and how it impact the LFS.
Well, neons, I don't see much of an issue with, because that's the Florida bread and butter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're just fish.
If you want to pick any fish, the way it's impacted us, I'll give you an example. So all my fish now that were supposed to come in last week now land Thursday of this upcoming week. I now have to pay, so I'm still paying a 19% tariff, right, from Indonesia, even though the tariffs were unconstitutional. Indonesia made an agreement with the U.S., which supersedes the unconstitutional tariffs. So now it's locked in place. I'm at 19% tariff now moving forward regardless. There's a fuel surcharge on all freight. Right now, it's probably going to be 10% of my total freight. And then the freight to Miami is $2.50 more per kilo than I already pay into Orlando. And I've got to pay another $1,300 to go get it out of Miami versus when I just pick it up myself in Orlando. Because to be honest, I don't want to make it 12-hour. That's just personal for me. So I have a courier service pick it up for me. That increased my cost right now. I bet it's over 30% of what it used to be. It's at least up 30% of my cost. And I will say we've eaten a lot of it, because the problem is I'm a grain of sand in the wholesale world. We have a small company. We've got like 5 employees. We're very family owned. We're really focused on putting out a good product. But to compete at the level some of these stores are doing at, I had to make a decision. Am I going to eat it? Or am I going to pass some off and hope people understand the quality I'm trying to put out, or at least the difference in size of fish? We really focus a lot more on bigger fish, of even some of your common stuff that you see. Okay. So it's not always apples to apples, but I try to do that. So I will say for us personally, I've eaten, I bet, over 20% of it. I haven't passed it on to our customers.
Yeah, but that's not going to be sustainable in the long run, is it?
Say it again.
Is that going to be able to be sustainable in the long run? That's kind of my. You see, I know you mentioned that meat might not be affected, but in reality, as a business, even though the price of neon might not be affected right now, overall, the business is having to absorb costs, which eventually is going to cost even bread and staple stuff to have to increase to be able to sustain.
Yeah, well, it will increase. And I will say it's a tough market because as much as, and this is just being transparent as possible, a lot of the places is incredibly price oriented. And for us, it's even more price oriented because most of our business is shipping business. So I have to ship out of state for it's probably 95% of my business. So I have to compete with the people who are delivering to the door, where if they go up in prices, well, there's no freight cost, there's no box charge, there's no nothing. If I have to ship to the door, it's 25, 30% of somebody's bill. So I have to be very price conscious on what I charge because of knowing I have to compete in that space with the local people dropping off at their doors. So for me, I might be a little bit of a nuance to the rule, but I would still say prices are probably up in most places. I just know if I go up and I have to eat that, it's going to be a tough sell. So I've been doing my best to keep them as low as possible for now.
So now the price, the fish gets to Luis's door. And like you were saying, okay, you got some places that deliver, some places Luis has to pick it up at the airport, some places has a free courier, some places she's gonna have to pay UPS. Luis, what are you doing with all this? How's this affecting you?
It's a mix of both. Some of my like premier suppliers are hitting me with flat fee tariff rates. Others hit me with tariff fees based on the fish, whether it was, locally bred, if it was imported. I fortunately enough do work with a lot of home breeders, so that helps, but not all of my home breeders are local per se. So again, I'm paying the UPS fees, whatever it is. I'm paying FedEx fees, whatever it is. I'm paying the airlines, whatever it is. We still get hit with box fees. We still get hit with the heat pack fees and all that other good stuff, which, okay, that's one thing that hasn't gone up. But everything's been fluctuating. I've eaten it for a while, but since maybe November, there's a couple things that have definitely increased in price at the shop. It's the same way I'm eating credit card fees all the time, and the credit card fees have gone up and the utilities went up. We had a cold snap that lasted a week, and my winter electric bill is usually $1,300 a month, and last month was $1,800. And it's because I had to run 3 extra heaters. Our overnights were below zero for like a week straight. I got hammered, but I can't make the customer pay for that. My lease renews in April. I'm sure that's going up. I can't make the customers pay for that, but it has to factor into the bottom line at the shop. And I do have excellent prices, but if certain fish are, let's say, $5.99, they might have to go to $6.29 or $6.49. And it's the same. Like I need to make a decision, even like on the credit card machine. I need to make a decision that if you pay with cash, maybe you get 3% off your order. If you're going to pay with the card, maybe I have to reverse transact those fees to put on you as the consumer. I don't know. Again, I've been eating it, but it doesn't make me happy. I mean, I don't, I'm doing taxes as we speak. And that being said, I know how much I lost on just credit card fees. Now you got to throw in the tariff fees. You got to throw in all these other fees, the surcharges on gas, like that. It's losing $30,000 off the rip for fees that exist now. I don't know about that. That's a lot.
So, and basically, it seems like you and Dan are both, like Dan is trying to keep his costs down so it doesn't transfer over to you,
Oh
and
yeah,
you're trying to keep your costs down so it doesn't transfer over to
yeah.
the customer.
Yeah, he
So,
he's in the boat, I'm in the dinghy, but we both got one oar and we're not sure if
yeah.
we going left or right. I'd like to
So,
get back to shore, but we
yeah.
might be going into open water.
So I'm gonna ask the same question to Dan and Luis, but I'm gonna start with Dan because he's like the beginning of the chain in the country. Um, we can't politically can't nobody really do anything about that.
Right.
But what alternatives can you possibly come up with that would help? aside from going and storming some federal building or anything like that, or like
Biosecure
what?
facilities here where people actually want to nerd out and start producing fish and get good genetic lines and work together instead of competing against each other. Go
Mhm.
back to what the fish farms in Florida used to be, but put a dome on them so things don't freeze due to, if you want to call it global warming, fine and
Yeah.
dandy. I call it Mother Nature. But that being said, again, it's people. It's uh, again, we go back to the United States of America and greed. What's going to make us the most profit? Exactly. What's going to make us the most profit with the least amount of work? But obviously, that method is not working here. I mean, and again, when I was doing my research about this whole live stream we were going to do, there's, what did I say, 10 or 12,000 facilities in Iran that are biosecure, and that's why they're breeding mollies and discus and angels that I didn't even know about, and 300 million fish are being exported out of Iran every year. Like, hello, we can do that, but and Israel does the same thing, and they do it in the desert. You don't need to be by a river, you don't need to be by a reservoir. This is what biosecurity is. It's about having clean, sustainable domes, and you're breeding fish. And again, all of our breeders, like in Germany, all the breeders get together in Germany and they meet up at a place, and then that exporter sends them over here. We can do this, but we need to stop fighting over whose dick is bigger and just come together, share your secrets, and make some fish. So, sorry, Dan, you've got better insight than I do. I look at it a very simple level, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think I have two perspectives. The first is I'll use my perspective because that's what I know the best. Is for my personal business model is us not being a big person. I'm built on variety. I have to have enough variety for it to make sense.
Hmm.
The problem with that is we've looked at setting up and breeding more stuff in house. It's purely the level of scale we'd have to get to for that to be profitable at a certain level. And I'd have to go through each fish we bring in, come up with what I'd call a modular breeding plan, which I've kind of hinted at in the past. I really kind of wanted to do, but it's just a lot of outlay of capital for probably we're looking at 2 to 5 years before we could probably see true profitability because of everything is in swing and flux. That's the problem. Like if I go out and I build the infrastructure to, let's say, produce 25 of my best selling fish that are relatively, let's say there's a good margin if I breed them myself. If we get there in 5 years and we get a new president and that gets rid of all the tariffs, my competitive edge is gone. And
Right.
Yeah.
all that money of investment is gone, regardless of no one's going to pay the price. Right now, because of the tariffs and all the extra fees and all the stuff, it's probably competitive to go back to breeding. The problem is the instability. Nobody wants to risk the investment to putting
Yep.
out local fish. And that's what I see as the big issue because on my level, it would be, let's say I put out $250,000 on the low level. If you're talking these guys that are going to try to breed the fish they bring in, all the big monster guys, you're looking at hundreds of acres of farms. You're talking massive greenhouse. You're talking probably a $5 million investment to get to their level. And if it went out, I mean, they're out 5 mil. So I think breeding would be great. I think the tariff thing, when he originally planned it, it sounds like a great idea, but it's not stable enough to go out there and say, yeah, I can go put $250,000 in breeding and say I now know I can be competitive in whatever fish you want to name. We looked at, the way we did the model. In case anyone wants it, I no problem sharing it. We looked at fish that were basically a smaller variety of fish that were very hook hunned or had a lot of babies and were pretty high price point. So we were looking at things like Apistos was a good one for us. Apistos are a big seller for us. We do a lot of Apistos. But when you start looking at the import price comparatively, and we have to breed and be basically I got to compete with the stuff I'm trying to buy.
Yeah, it's the cost efficiency.
It would, yeah, and the cost efficiency, fees
Yeah,
going up,
the
all those things.
food.
It just
Yeah.
has to be there,
Yep.
and that's a tough mark. That's a tough number to hit.
Yep.
It can be done if all of the things we see now were never going to change. But I think the instability, if I had to do it and go get investors, I don't think I could pull off an investor because of how risky it would be.
And then if a bunch of people do jump on it, everybody's going to want to breed the most expensive thing. And, again, we still need the bread and butter. It's like, a discus breeder out here. Everybody wants to breed discus. Yeah, sure. You got 60 babies. And that's really hard for, 6 local fish stores to buy your 60 babies, because now we've got 60 babies of the same strain of fish. But
Yeah.
that's how people are. They're like, I want to breed the most expensive fish. Well, that's great until it gets saturated. It
Yeah.
doesn't work
Yeah.
that way. And again, that's greed, but it's tough. And especially, again, the cost efficiency, the costs to operate, again, just paying an employee, everybody wants, $15-20 an hour, and it doesn't really work that way with, things that we're selling for 49 cents wholesale. It's tough.
Chick-fil-A is like 18 an hour down here to start, so it's
Yeah,
a tough market to be in.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you want somebody that's going to change filter floss and scrub algae, but I'm not doing it for $20 an hour. You're crazy.
Yeah.
I know it was about a year back. Me and Dan had a conversation at the shop, and then me and Mexicali ended up doing a live stream about it. I know you was like, man, I wish I could find somebody who would be dedicated to breeding Apistos, like a regular supply of Apistos. But you said nobody nobody would. You know what I mean? Nobody would that you could in numbers that you can work with,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know Wheezy keeps saying, if we can get people to breed at home, to
Yeah,
supply.
everybody's just got to specialize in one thing.
Yeah,
They don't have to dip their hands in every single candy bowl. Just pick something that you're really good at and just
yeah.
keep making that happen.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of people who wish they could do that, but I don't think. I think once they get I think it is like once they like with angels and stuff, and I hear people trying to sell like the long fin bristle nose, and they don't. Once they start realizing how much a wholesaler will give them per fish, they get very discouraged. Or even a fish store, even a LFS will give them per fish. That's where they kind of just fall apart. You know what I mean? That they're like, what? But you sell them for $20. I should at least get 15. That's
Yeah,
not work.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
Well,
and then even more so the wholesaler. You know what I mean? Like, well, the wholesaler ain't gonna give you that. But they can't in their heads. They can't wrap their heads around. Okay, yeah, but if you're doing thousands of them or hundreds of them, those pennies add up.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing, though, is also they have no problem letting it breed. And then in 2 weeks, they're like, oh, but I got to feed it. All
And
right,
they
well,
give
I'm
it
going to
away.
call the local fish store. Yeah, I'm going to call the local fish store. They'll buy them. No, I can't buy your fry and let them
Yeah,
sit here for 6 months because I don't have that kind of a facility. Like, my fish tanks are real estate. I need to flip the real estate. Sorry to say
yeah,
it that way.
well,
yeah.
there's also the thing where, I guess, what's his store or business name? Dan from Dan's Fish, I think it is. He was doing it where he was trying to buy wholesale from home breeders, but then he started having complaints, I guess, because even though he was paying for the shipping, they felt like they were getting uh, the short end of the deal because he would discount it from what he was paying for them. But at the end of the day, you're not paying for the
That's not
shipping.
paying
I
for
mean,
shipping, then.
no, I'm saying me as a breeder, I am not having to come out of pocket to pay for that shipping because he's pretty much including it in the price that he's giving me for the fish. And I know there was some confusion with some people that were dealing with them, and they weren't really happy because they felt like they were getting less for their fish than what they thought they deserved. But that I think what it is, there's a lack of understanding how wholesale pricing really works. And if you want to be a person that sells to wholesale, you really have to understand that the price margins are going to be very different than if you're trying to go one to one with customers. You can charge whatever you want on individual sales, but once you're starting to sell volumes, the prices really do change. And I think that's something that doesn't really get talked about, or there's an understanding on how that side of the business really works. And they have people have um, unreasonable expectations when it comes to that.
Yeah, and we have a sliding scale as far as being a retail store, like dealing with certain wholesalers. Some have one set price, whether I buy one or 50 of the fish, and then other places, the more I buy, the lower the price goes. So, there's a lot that factors into it. See, for me, and this is just my store policy, and I kind of wish more stores would do it, but if I'm getting a homebred product and I have a relationship with the person that I'm working with to buy their stock, then chances are I know what they're feeding them. Chances are I know that they care about the parameters that they're being raised in, or, again, if they're local, then I kind of know the water, especially if they're, on a tap system. I pretty much know a lot of my surrounding areas, like like what comes out of their taps as far as pH and all that good stuff. But to me, you pay a little more for that. But that's just my personal opinion. I've been running into brick walls where a lot of people are like, oh no, stores only give you 35%. And I'm like, then you shouldn't be working with that store. And I'm not trying to sound mean saying it that way, but it's, again, there's a difference between somebody breeding and flipping fish, and again, exporters have changed over the years too. Like, there's exporters that they will maintain the highest standards and the highest quality of the stuff that's going out the door. And then there's fly by night exporters that pop up in our DMs on Facebook all the time. And it's, here's my list and blah, blah, blah. And I laugh at those lists because you'll see a neon tetra on there, like literally for $1 more than what I would pay for my neon tetra coming in homebred from Florida. And I'm like, wow, there's idiots in basements that are actually buying this and paying
Well,
$440 to ship it to the United States. Like, it's crazy. But they
I
don't
think
know. They
I,
don't work with, legitimate companies to see that these are the actual prices that we're paying.
well, here's the thing, though, and I think when you get into those situations, or the people that might take advantage of those services are the ones that are not willing to go the extra leg and legitimize their business.
Right.
They're
Right.
working around the regulations to try to be
Yeah.
able to get inventory.
Yep.
So I guess it serves them right if that's the way they go. I mean, it's just, I mean, at the end of the day, these are all choices that people have to make when it
Yep.
comes to the type of business they're doing. Now, are there pluses or minuses in doing that? Yeah, there's got to be. And I know we had a conversation with you about it and how much that really affects businesses that are established and have gone through all the hoops and jumps that you have to go through to be able to do that. But I don't know how successful those other businesses are able to sustain in the long run either.
Well, I think the scary part with some of those options, like the fly by night exporters, is it affects even people like Dan, and it affects like how he's able to import, because when they slip stuff in the bags that shouldn't be in this country in the first place and they're getting held up in customs, you're making all those other companies look bad. Like, it's not really on the transshipper, it's on the person that's paying the transshipper. So that being said, like that's where Lacey Act, we were talking about this actually before we went into the stream, but that's where Lacey Act comes into play, and then they're banning all kinds of other fish because of the non, reputable exporters, let's call them. But yeah, it's a whole trickle down.
Who got caught importing oxalotls not too long ago? I saw that somebody brought in a bunch of oxalotls, and since their CITES permitted, they got busted. That's one that kind of confused me. I knew they were CITES permitted, but people, I guess, don't. I guess I have an issue with CITES. CITES is meant to protect stuff that's critically endangered, but we have
Yeah.
quite a few things on that CITES list that are actually aquaculture
Yep.
that shouldn't be on that
Hold on,
list,
stop.
especially.
Yeah.
Yep.
Say that one more time. CITES?
So CITES is basically designed to protect things that are critically endangered. So we're not harvesting them, right? In order to protect the current population there is, because they're endangered. We have all sorts of things on that list that protects them. The issue I see with that is a lot of the fish on that list we are now aquaculturing in other countries, and it's not
Like Asian
impacting.
arowanas and stuff like that?
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. One, the L46 pleco. That's a CITES permitted pleco now, but it's being raised by the tens of thousands in Thailand and Indonesia you can get them still legally, but they're not coming, wild. They're coming aquaculture.
Yep.
Another one is, from the saltwater side is Maxima clams are up for, I don't think they got put on the CITES yet, but Maxima clams were there. And Maxima clams are cultured out of Tahiti. So these things that are not being, and then somebody did oxalotls. Well, those are, the ones they had were like multicolored and all the different types. Well, those are cultured animals, and they busted them because they didn't. I assume they didn't put them on their ticket when they imported them in, which was really stupid. Because that's like the fine for that is so massive. It's crazy, but also like, I wish we would take a more common sense approach to stuff like that. And
Yeah. I just had
it's
a
not.
friend who was screwed over that brought in stuff from Germany, and there was some type of killifish, I guess, that was on the list. But these were, homebred by somebody in Germany and so on and so forth. It doesn't matter. They kept them and that was it. He lost a bunch of money and it sucks. And you're right. Like they need to do the proper, I get the paperwork, I get the paper trail, but again, there's certain common sense things that how do you get around it when you know darn well it wasn't poached, it wasn't, taken, this isn't wild, but how do you, get around it?
Yeah.
God dang it, Dan.
What's Funk doing now?
What?
Dan, one of Dan's Bulgarian seal points he gave me is beating the hell out of the other one.
Devils in disguise. There are no good angels.
He's having tank
Not anymore.
violence.
They're done.
No, it's hard to get Bulgarian seal points. It was beating the hell out of son of a bitch.
Yeah. No, it's the other thing, the whole thing with the rabbit hole going down this when asking questions and stuff like that, because it's stuff that we don't necessarily sit and think about as hobbyists, because we don't really see the effects of a lot of this stuff, but it's the industry that gets impacted, and then depending on how long it has to be sustained, then eventually the consumer side will see the effects. But one of the things is, I have a friend of mine, Steve, Warrior Penalty Tanks. He used to tell me all the time. He goes, "Do you know why we always find new species and they become available to us all of a sudden?" He goes, "You got to thank conflict for that. They're conflict fish because it's areas that did not have access, but after the
Yeah.
conflict's over, that market gets opened up, and
Yep.
all of a sudden you have an influx of certain species that we did not have access to before." So
That's why I say war is good. No, it's not. It's really not. Conflict
is,
fish.
yeah. There's a comment that says species impact studies need to be done for species to get them removed from the list, and it is incredibly expensive and nobody does it. Yeah, that could be part of the big issue with some of that. I don't know my nomenclatures for the plecos, but were you talking about the zebra plecos? Is that what the issue was?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So now, obviously, this is one of the things that I hadn't really thought about it, but until recently, is whenever we have incidents, it seems like it's, especially when it's focused on the Middle East. I know travel gets impacted. If you're trying to catch a flight stateside, you got to go through all these checks and security checks to be able to board, obviously for obvious reasons. Now, does that same sort of security scrutiny impact also the industry, or are they kind of exempt because there is, other than the pilots, there's no other civilians in the plane? Is that something you guys also have to deal with? Is delayed times of stuff being brought in, or that doesn't impact the industry?
It will depend. And I don't know exactly the criteria, but I will tell you, I guess it depends on what I declare. So all my paperwork is due 48 hours in advance of any shipment landing here. And when it goes to customs or it goes to Fish and Wildlife, they look through my list. Basically, it's a double check to make sure everything's there. And if I needed permits, I would have permits on that paperwork too. In the event they are worried about something, they it will delay it of when I can pick it up because they will physically go open that box. Because the way the tickets work is every box is labeled what fish is in what box number. So box 1 is, cardinal tetras. Box 2's rummy nose tetras. They'll have it all laid out in the ticket so they can go there and say, okay, let's make sure this is the right fish. And they'll go through whatever boxes they want to check off. Sometimes it's all, sometimes it's a spot check, sometimes it just depends on what they're looking for. But it's, it's just, it will delay it sometimes an hour, sometimes 2. I haven't had a whole lot of delays, mainly because I don't bring in anything that requires any sort of special permits at all. Mainly because I don't want anything getting delayed. Like if you were going to do goldfish, that's a special permit and a special port. Snails are special permits in different places. Plants have a whole separate regulatory process. A lot of stuff we do is just, yeah, goldfish, koi, all that has to be virus tested before you can get them in the States. It gets tested at port, which is typically Miami, is where it comes from.
Oh, okay.
So they'll have to test something for they test for KHV and SVC, I believe, is the 2 main ones. So koi herpes virus and spring viremia of carp.
Herpes?
Yeah, dude.
Freaky
Fun
ass
be messing around with them fish. That's why they have it.
Hey, don't be teabagging your tanks if y'all got goldfish. I'm just saying.
Now, this probably doesn't affect you as much, Dan, but maybe Louise it does. I know when we think about impacts to the hobby, we're thinking of livestock, but are the supplies, filters, that other kind of stuff? Is that also stuff that we're going to probably see getting impacted because of the lack of, or we don't import a lot of that stuff when it comes to the equipment, and other things
There's
that are used?
very little I can think of that doesn't come from another country. My hardscape materials have been impacted since the tariffs. So rimless tanks, I mean, almost everything. Well, all right, okay, I'm a specialty store. So that being said, I carry oddball stuff, not just the basics, but a lot of my hardscaping has been impacted. Fish tanks, rimless tanks, certain filtration companies. Well, I mean, we can use the Green Box God as an example. So Aquarium Co-op products, they were all impacted, which then impacted my shelf, which now impacted me getting it off of my shelves permanently. But that's also another reason why I'm restructuring some of the dry goods up at the shop, because I don't want those kinds of problems. Other reasons that I'm restructuring is because I'm looking for better quality products. I think that since COVID, certain companies have changed where they're manufacturing their stuff, and some products that used to be good, I don't think are good anymore. And I think they found cheaper ways to produce things, or found cheaper avenues or cut corners to, get their products into a box. So I've been switching up a lot of things since fall of this year, because enough is enough. I don't see things getting better. Politics aside, tariffs aside, the more we ask for raises, the more things keep increasing here in the United States. If you want $20 to flip a hamburger, your rent is going to go up 20% because you now are being paid $20. So everything goes up. If you want $20 to make a box of cereal at whatever company is manufacturing the cereal, the price of your cereal went up because they have to pay that person for their wage increase. So the more and more we do this, the more and more larger companies are finding cheaper methods to make their products. So yeah, everything is impacted right now.
I got a question for. I'm gonna start with Dan because do you foresee something possible? Hopefully it doesn't happen. It's a worst case scenario. That's something like looking down the road that is just something we can't come back from on your end.
Yeah, I definitely think freight is going to be a big one. So prior to COVID, freight was pretty manageable for imports. When COVID hit, freight basically tripled overnight because there was very limited flights. And once everything seemed to mellow back out, the airlines realized, oh, we could just keep
doing
the
it.
price. We don't have to go down on our freight costs.
Yep.
They I don't think a lot of people realize that's the bottleneck in our industry because it has to go airplane overseas. It's not going on a boat. It's got to go, our flights land within typically 28 to 32 hours. It's got to go as fast as it can get to us. That's the only option we have. So a bottleneck could be something major happening again and causing freight to go up even another time. It would basically cripple the industry because it couldn't handle another double from here on out. It would be too costly. I don't think it could. I don't think the industry could survive. I think you're going to see a lot of things. A lot of businesses would go out if that happened again from the current stages of it. It's just
Yeah.
because there's no way you could avoid it. You have to go over there and get it. And if you're going to pay it, you better be in a great area to be able to upcharge that fish because it's going to triple in price, just like a lot of fish did over COVID.
And Luis, is there something that would come from, hopefully never does happen, but could possibly happen, come from the fish supply Dan side, that could happen on their side, that if they do this, LFSs would never come back from? Do you foresee something that they could do?
Well,
Maybe
no, he
their fault
nailed
or
it.
not?
No,
Yeah.
he nailed it right on the head. And
Okay.
that's exactly what's wrong with every industry right now is that when COVID hit, everything got exorbitant on our pricing. And not to sound disrespectful, but business said, "Oh shit, you guys are willing to pay it? Cool, we're not going to lower it." And they never did. And that's exactly what's happening with tariffs all over again. You could erase tariffs tomorrow. If you think things are going to go back down, you're crazy. They got away with it with COVID. They're going to get away with it with tariffs, and nothing's ever going to go down. It's not just that we as consumers want more, or employees, we want more, we want more pay, we want more this, we want more benefits, blah, blah, blah. It's not just that. It's the
Yeah.
fact of supply and demand. It's like saying you can get rid of all drugs on the planet. That's fine and dandy, but where there's a supply, there is a demand. People will find a way, and they will pay to get what they want, and we're screwed. It's not gonna get cheaper. The only way for it to be cheaper, if I was an LFS, is to be down in Florida, be by the fish farms, and make those runs myself, whereas I'm reliant on the airport, whether it's Philadelphia International, whether it's ABE, which is closer than Philly. Newark is a joke. I mean, Newark is my closest airport as far as international, but I'm gonna
Newark's
wait
a
5 hours.
beautiful place. It's
Oh
beautiful,
yes, love
clean.
it, love
It's
it.
clean.
And if you go in two
It's a
hours after your
vacation
flight
destination.
lands, yeah, if you go in 2 hours after your flight lands and say, "Hi, I think I'm here for my boxes," now you're gonna wait 8 hours because you pissed them off because you only waited two
Yeah,
hours to come get your
yeah.
stuff.
So
But
it's safe
Philly,
to
I can
say,
wait an hour and
yeah.
I'll get it, and I can get a good cheesesteak. So
So what I'm getting from you, honestly,
if we're all
is
screwed,
I don't feel like, okay, you know how like everybody always blames the next guy. Like, oh, it's not the LFS's fault. It's the wholesaler's fault. That's not
oh, it's
happening.
not the wholesaler's fault either. No, definitely
But
not the
I'm
wholesaler's
saying you
fault
don't
either.
seem to be
No,
you
it's
don't
the
seem to
brown
be putting
box
the
bitches and
okay.
and the airlines. It's those people.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. You don't seem to have any. You're not seem to be putting any kind of heat on wholesalers, and
It's
which is
nobody's
cool. That's
fault
cool. Like
except for,
like
yeah,
it seems
no.
to be like
It's
a
it's
cohesive. Hey, we're
yeah,
all in this
it's
together.
society's. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
society's fault because we keep allowing ourselves to get bent over by corporations, but we're also doing it to ourselves because, again, the more we demand in our pockets, the more the corporations are going to increase their prices because they're not about to lessen what's going into their pockets. That's just business. That I and I'm not a socialist, I'm not a capitalist. That's just how business works. The more you want as an employee, the more the business has to shell out, which means they have to increase the prices of their product in order for them to maintain a sustainable living. I mean, I eat poorly at the shop, but it's because I work 90 hours a week. Like, I had 2 customers that bought me an air fryer because they were sick of seeing me microwaving ramen noodles. Now, part of me eats ramen noodles
You
on,
can
let's
air
say,
fry ramen noodles?
listen, I make some banging ramen noodles. I doctor it up. It's not just, out the packet.
All
I can gourmet my ramen, but
right.
my thing is, like, there's weeks where you eat it because you're a broke bitch, and then there's weeks you eat it because you enjoy it. I'm willing to do that. And I'm willing not to necessarily screw over my customers. Like, everybody enjoys my price points. They compliment my price points. A lot of my customers come in and they're on their phones looking up the fish, not to research, but at least for what it was going to cost elsewhere. But that being said, it matters. So, there's times I can offer certain customers discounts if they're spending big money. There's other times where they still know they're saving with me, just overall, but there's more behind it than just the price of my fish. There's quality, there's the knowledge and the experience that I have. So all of that factors into the price. But this isn't going to get better, unfortunately. The only way it can get better for us here in the States, as far as me being a store, is buying from local breeders where I'm not spending any money shipping. They're coming to the shop and dropping the stuff off. Other than that, I can be closer to wholesalers that, I like and want to work with. And Florida would be a great place, and definitely
Come
South
on.
Florida.
Come
Well,
on.
we've already had this conversation, sir. You don't trust me. You don't want me to have a flash sale because I'll be there. But it's a shame. And again, just like today, I gassed up and it was 3.55 a gallon, and it was 2.98 2 weeks ago. So it's not going to get better. But a lot of corporations since COVID, they knew that they had us by the short and curlies because they never lowered their prices, and they are not going to lower them this time either.
So we've talked about transshippers and corporations and LFS owners and wholesalers. There's one person in the equation that hasn't got any heat. Do you think the consumer has any blame in any of this?
Who you
I
asking?
don't. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I don't think the consumer necessarily has blame to do with it. I think the way I kind of see it is, I think the problem isn't with them. I still see it today. There's so much bad information in our hobby about from back to where things come from to even where things go with. And I would say I would bet you if you put it out there for the general person who just has a fish tank, they probably wouldn't have a clue where fish come from, what they do. They just got a fish tank up, maybe it's for the family, something else. They don't know and they might not care. So my experience is it's just a lot of it doesn't affect me type deal versus you have the hobbyists that are like really into this, which it does affect them because I think they do care. But I think it's, obviously that's the shorter end, that's the minority group of people, I would say. I would say the majority of people that have fish tanks don't know what things cost, and they're just saying, all right, well, this guy's $4, this guy's $2, $3. They might not know the difference. That fish might be half the size. It might be from a country that has the lower quality fish. They might not know the difference. So I don't think it's done out of malice or anything like that. I just think it's just being uninformed and not understanding a lot of that, because it is very convoluted and complicated at some level when you start trying to tell people what's better about this and that, because a lot of times they don't want to hear it, unfortunately.
So the unknowing part.
It's the unknowing part, yeah.
Yep.
Unknowingly, yeah.
Wheezy?
No, I agree
on
with
the
him
ave?
100%. The only thing, and I mean, maybe it'll happen one day, because again, I don't see the prices going down. I only see them increasing. But maybe that would change the hobby in the respect of not so many people treating this like a disposable hobby. Like, when if you're only forced to be able to buy a Benz instead of getting the hoopty Corolla, let's say, used. I'm not talking about a brand new Corolla, but the chances are, if you bought the hoopty Corolla and you sideswiped a car and lost your side view mirror, you're not gonna freak out about it like you would a brand new $80,000 Benz. So if the prices continue to increase in our industry, and I'm saying this the wrong way, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Maybe that weeds out the people that are gonna treat every fish like it's just a disposable fish. Like if the guppies get to be expensive, like a mutt guppy is a cheap mutt guppy. It was bred with whatever. But a pure strained pair of guppies can go for $20, $50, so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
maybe that would change the industry, that you'd have more hobbyists than disposable fish people. But again,
I
that's just a
yeah.
theory.
I
People,
actually
if
have
people with disposable
a
money are going to treat things disposable, that's just the way it works.
yeah, yeah, because I happen to know somebody with disposable money who kills
Right.
fish.
Yeah.
Like, I lost
Oh yeah.
it. Let me get another
Yep.
one. Shoom, shoom, shoom,
Yep.
shoom, shoom.
I got the
Kills fish
very
left and
same
right.
people, but I tell them that I'd like to buy them a gift card to go to the other store. I don't want people disposing of my fish. That's
Yeah,
just me. I like my fish sometimes more than I like people, and it's never going to change. So the
I
prices
hate to
might
say
never go
it.
down, and my attitude's never going to get better. But anyway.
The fair is going on this time of year, and I will tell
oh
you
my god,
the amount of people that come here from the fair that
the
say,
strawberry
"Hey, I got a
festival.
goldfish.
Yep.
Yeah,
What can I put with it in my 1.5 gallon tank?"
Yep.
Or,
yes,
"Hey, I got a goldfish at the fair. It died within a day. What do I do?
in a
I have a
bowl.
bowl to
Let's
put
do
it
it.
in."
Yeah.
And that's
Let's
where
do
I'm like, well, and it's just a whole line of
Yeah.
like, well, that's not going to work. Here's
May
why
through
this doesn't
September,
work.
I want to stab myself with the
Oh my
25-cent
gosh.
goldfish people. Yep.
I've gotten
Yeah. And
four
then,
so far, Dan. So what he's talking
huh?
about is we have the strawberry
Well,
festival up here. I've gotten
yeah.
four so far. Goldfish in fish bowls. And we're running out of sponge filters and small air pumps, and because they did not expect, oh, okay, aquarium with all the fixins and all that stuff. So the most I can do for them, because a lot of these people kids, or they're broke, and they assumed they were going to come to get some fish food, and they told me about what they had, and I was like, oh man, the least, or they come get gravel. That was the funny one. The last person that came, they came up to me with gravel and fish food and a plant. And they were telling me what they had in the bowl with the gold. I was like, put all that crap back, because that's all they could afford. I was like, if that's all you can afford, then here, get this sponge filter and this thing, and we sell 50 cents a foot for the damn air pump. If that's all you can afford, get that. The hell with the gravel and that plant. The fish food they got, but still, I was like, well, in the prime. I gave them, I sold them prime. But yeah, I've had four so far with the strawberry festival already. I can't believe they're still doing that. I thought that
Yep.
was. I can't believe it.
That's a forever thing. Although
What
I
is it?
will say that I was 9 years old and I won a goldfish, and that sucker lived for 20 years. So a lot of people become hobbyists because of that.
Yeah,
And then there's
yeah,
the nightmare. Like,
yeah.
I know you'll defend Father Fish, but when he did the whole please go out to a back pond and pick up a gallon of,
No,
parasites and mud,
I,
I
I
sold
got
a
his people
lot of
too.
meds that summer.
I got his people too. I defend
Yep.
people
I
doing
sold a
different shit.
lot of meds that summer.
I defend people doing different stuff, and whatever works for them, that works
Yep.
for them. That's what I defend.
Yep.
I I had people coming in here too with the resurrection jar and didn't
Yep.
know what it was. They watched one video and they came in.
Yeah, look, it's a
So
shrimp. No, that's Hydra.
yeah, yeah.
I'm curious to see, based on what we're talking about increasing in shipping. I wonder how much local fish stores will probably see a benefit because of the high cost of shipping. And the reason I say that is because as a consumer, if I go online and try to buy fish and I start doing the math, it might cost me more money to be able to order online versus me going to the fish store, even though the prices might be a little bit elevated what I'm used to, but I'm not having to pay for that shipping cost. So I'm just kind of curious to see how that kind of plays out in the whole impact of the hobby, where you start seeing maybe people not order as much online and start going more to the local fish stores and actually buying
I
locally.
think that's why my shop does so well. That 4 hour radius that I have is literally because they'd rather drop it in the tank, make a day trip out of it, stop somewhere, grab something to eat, throw the family in the car. Because I have so many oddballs, they can see them in person, they can get the ratio that they want. It's not just shipping costs that factor into a customer willing to take the drive. Like, you have to kind of have the ambiance. You have to kind of have that specialty list and so on and so forth. But like I still am fascinated. I have a guy in Oregon, a guy in Wyoming, and a guy down in Southern California that they spend $125 to ship big ass boxes of fish to them. That, again, you've got Wet Spot on your side, you've got a bunch of places, you got Moonlight on your side, but they have me shipped from my location in PA to them, and they're paying buku dollars to ship. And mind you, they're getting a wide variety of stuff from me. It's not, two fish in a box. Like the one guy, oh my God, I wanted to kill myself. He ordered all nano fish and mostly like loaches, like coolie loaches. I've got like 5 different kinds, but stuff that like takes forever to get into a net, let alone into the bag. But it was 20 different bags of all nano species, and I think the shipping was 156 bucks to Washington. But he spent it. So it's not just quality, but I think that, again, it's $70 for me to ship to Colorado, and that's nothing special. That's 12 pounds of fish. So long term, I don't see people, if you want one fish, let's say from Dan's Fish, yeah, it might be an exotic, and okay, he's got, let's say, a good price. It's only 25 bucks. Are you really going to spend 50 or 60 for the overnight ship? That's when, like, now is a prime opportunity for fish stores to start learning about what's on trend. And me, I'm just trendy. I subscribe to all the magazines. I'm a fish tuber. It kind of is what it is. That's just because I'm a diehard hobbyist. But for fish stores that always get the same bread and butter and always get the same thing, yeah, you need to step up your game. Now's the time to do it, and you'll get a whole new influx of customers. But you have to want to be that way. I think, like, I'm starting, I'm like I said, I'm going to be 4 years in July. I'm starting to realize why fish stores don't want to deviate. I'm starting to realize why fish stores will sell you anything and agree with anything that comes out of your mouth. I'm starting to understand why fish store owners are numb and why they're not people persons anymore. I had a mini stroke. I took a nap on the floor recently because I'm too stressed out. People don't want to do anything for themselves, and I'm not a robot. This is a fish store. So there's benefits to wanting the foot traffic, and then there's detriments to it as well. So I'm not thrilled about shipping going up. I wanted to be closed an extra day per week so that I can continue shipping, and now it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. I know there was a comment by Hagen Hills Design. He was saying, "What if a group of fish breeders started breeding like mad and just started giving fish away, flood the market with free fish, teach people to breed their own fish until nobody needed to buy fish?" It sounds good in theory, but the reality is there's a lot of species of fish that we enjoy that are very difficult to
The
breed.
breed, yep.
I guess for some of the common stuff, maybe some of the simple tetras, live bears, stuff like that, you could potentially do something like that. But at the end of the day, most hobbyists, especially experienced hobbyists, are always trying to go for those rare, harder to find species. And I think there's always going to be a market for that. That's just my opinion, though, as a hobbyist.
Well, no, that's what determines the price points. That's why the zebra pleco, the holy grail, that's why the price point is $200. It's because not only are they hard to breed, but they also don't breed like a bristlenose. They're not dropping 60 babies. So I wish we could flood the market with fish and everything was free and everything was cheap, but that, like you said, not everything is easy to breed in the first place, and that's actually what sets those price points the way they are. It's a lot of really cool plecos that are 3 inches and under don't breed like I love slate plecos, and I deep dove on it. I went to Planet Catfish. There's I think 2 breeding reports on slate plecos. But now I also have somebody that comes to the shop regularly, and he purposely buys plecos that there's barely any breeding reports on because he wants to be the guy to succeed. There's lots of breeders out there that they want to be that guy that's like, hell no, I pump these babies out every 3 months. And that's where like anybody can get BAP points for breeding whatever. And 90% of the time, when you tell me you're breeding fish, you're not. You're a fish voyeur. You're watching them do the deed. You're feeding them. You're putting them into another tank so mom and dad don't eat them. But fish breed. When you have to condition the fish, when you have to figure out what the proper food is and follow the barometric pressure and when it's going to rain and get your trigger breed or trigger spawning in based on a quick water change and all that stuff, that's breeding. That's a technique. You're mastering your craft with that specific fish. It's not that easy to just flood the market. You could definitely do it with guppies. You do it with convict cichlids, jewel cichlids, but not everything. So sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's there like 23,000 plus species we bring in collectively in our market? You could never, I mean, as much as I think that's a great idea, you could never flood the market because everyone always wants something different. We have such a unique, a niche space where there's so many different types of fish. It would be almost impossible to flood the market. Yeah, you can do it with a few fish, absolutely. But not everyone's going to want those fish. I would say probably most are not going to want that fish. A small percentage will, just based on, probability, I guess, out of all the species you can bring. So cool idea. I think it would help people, but also a lot of people might not want to breed them at all. They might not give, I say the majority of them are not going to want to breed any fish. They just want something that looks cool in their tank that they can have. It looks nice and it's least maintenance and not a lot of work. And that's what I see. That to me is the trendy. That's the trendy thing I see is what can they do that looks like that?
Well,
I know
I know
I'm going to
Funk
flood
and
the market with duckweed.
I know Funk and I have had this conversation about our misperspective of how big the hobby is and who really is the hobby, because we tend to, and I mean we as the people that are here are a lot different consumers because we're more of a nerd, I guess, if you want to give it a term, than your average consumer. There's a reason why there is the bread and butters that you see at all the big box stores is because a lot of the people are buying the fish because they're interested in having fish, but they don't necessarily want to go beyond learning how to breed them or they just want something that looks nice that they can have in their house and that their family can enjoy. We tend to get a little bit more in the weeds because we are more interested and we're trying to learn behaviors and we're trying to do something that is very different, but we're not the majority. On the contrary, I think when it comes to the market, we're the minority. All of us that are here and even listening to this live stream, we're listening to it because we are that minority. The majority of the consumer base doesn't go to this length of detail to try to learn these intricate things like how is this, how are conflicts going to affect the cost of fish coming into the States. They don't care. They just want something that they can put up maybe for their kids or for their own personal enjoyment, and that's as far as they want to go, which leads to what Dan was saying. I know you wanted to say something, Funk.
Oh no, you're 100% right. I think we and nothing. I like we're not trying to be negative or anything. I hear the conversations and chats and live streams about, well, the hobby this and the hobby that and the hobby this, and I think people get it mixed up with the hobby on YouTube or the industry, the fish keeping industry in the world. They're not the
As a
same.
whole. Yep.
Yeah, the hobby on YouTube is hillstream loaches and Madaka rice fish. The industry in the world is guppies and just
Yeah.
mollies and mixed
Tetras
mollies and stuff like that.
Daniels.
Yeah,
Skirt Tetris.
yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference. So I hear some opinions and I'm like, that's not reality. But it's not negative. It's just I think we sometimes we're just too in our bubble. But the same thing goes for LFSs sometimes, because I know LFSs, a lot of owners are so busy at their shop because it's a small operation. So the owner is there from sun up to sundown, 7 days a week. They don't get to go out to other LFSs and see what's going on. They don't get to go to the Aquashellas. They don't get to go to these places. So a lot of times, a lot of LFSs, like Wheezy was saying, they're just stuck in the back in the day because they haven't changed at all. They're doing the same old thing. When I used to work, when I used to sell for Dan over here, I used to come across old cats like, well, I've been buying with the same person for 15 years and 30. I'm not switching. Okay, but they're expensive and they're dying on left and right. People just I don't know, just people got to get out of their bubbles, I guess,
Should come to some trade shows like Global Pet Expo is a good one. Super Zoo is a good one for LFS specifically, not for consumers. But that's a show where we vend there. We don't vend as far as sell fish, but it's a showcase of new and upcoming fish we're putting out this year. Other places will kind of do the same thing. You'll have some of the bigger wholesalers there as well, but it's somewhere to come and experience new products that come in the industry. They have a whole new product showcase of all the new, basically everything in pet come out of the show in the next couple of weeks. So they'll have it for fish, dog, cat, reptile, everything, bird, whatever. They'll have a whole section of the new, fish products every year, and they'll be put up for an award of some kind. But there's innovation and being part of that for anything I think is important of what's popular. It's definitely changing a lot faster. It feels like now than it ever has. It shifts a lot more often. It feels like that to me. What I see people buying is changing a lot more often.
Yeah, you settle in for 2 years and then bang, here comes the next round. It does, yeah, it's quick shift.
Yeah, and I know that's something that that even Funk and I have talked about. Is it's interesting to see now that I've been back in the hobby, and I think I'm going on, I don't know what year, but you can kind of see these weird trends. It's like fashion, where every 10 years the trend will come back. And I don't know where we're at now. I don't know what side of the hobby we are. I know right now currently it's a lot of the smaller stuff, Planet Aquariums, the nano industry is big. But I remember coming in, it used to be African cichlids. But it's weird because I think social media really gives you a disproportionate reality. And what I mean by that is I used to tell Funk all the time, dude, African cichlids are dead. Nobody's buying them. But yet he pointed it out. He goes, go side, go to this side, go to this, and look at their inventory. And you'll see it's always sold out. And that's what really started changing my perspective on that and going, wait a minute. I'm making all these assumptions again in this very small niche side of the hobby, which is the social media side of it. And I don't know if the algorithm is just kind of catering to what I like. And that's why I don't see these other species being in the market. But if you go look for videos based on Africans, you'll find them, and they're 6-7 years old, the majority of them, when everybody was
Trends
trying
are
to do videos on them.
though.
But it doesn't mean that those fish are no longer
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
trends are
I don't know
territorial
because
though.
I think
Like
a lot
in
of people
California,
like your situation where people are buying them from a
No, what I think what Mexicali is saying is
yeah, go ahead.
everybody like in this chat, or in the fish tube world would assume that African cichlids are not a thing. But that's not the case because there's not a whole lot of African cichlid videos being put out. And that's what he's saying. There's not a
I
whole lot of
got you.
African cichlid videos being put out. But in reality, yeah, trends are there's certain places like New Jersey, the cichlid hut. That's damn near
Yeah.
50% plus of it is
Yep.
African cichlids. Where
Yeah.
I'm at
Like
right now,
people
we
in
sell
Cali
African
love
cichlids.
Tanganyikan. Like it it
Yeah,
it is
so
weird. Like
but
Midwest, they still love their
yeah,
cichlids.
but according to FishTube,
Yeah.
they went away a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I
But
think
that
nanofish, and I don't know if this is really true, but a lot of people that I talk to and associate with kind of agree when I say it. So during COVID, a lot of people obviously got into any hobby. They just needed something to do besides, staring
they
at each
big
other.
bread. They big bread.
But yeah, but a lot of apartment complexes changed the rules on having aquariums, and a lot of people, or I'm sorry, a lot of like larger corporate apartment complexes basically said you can't have anything over a 20 long. And I think that's where nanofish like became super trendy after COVID. And it's because again, you had a max on what you could have as far as an aquarium in an apartment or a condo or being a renter and things like that. So that trend just overall across the United States definitely took off the same way like rice fish haven't taken off the way they expected them to, but they did take off for people that were like, I'm not digging a hole in my yard to build a pond to put a koi fish in. But wait, you told me I can take a 15-gallon, planter barrel and I can throw these fish in it. So that, and again, being in an apartment, having a balcony, that worked out favorably in that respect. So I don't know, it's weird. But you're right. Like a lot of the people that follow certain YouTubers, they follow those certain YouTubers because they're talking about the same thing that follower is into. But
Yeah.
I mean, Cichlid Brothers wouldn't be Cichlid Brothers, and what is it, Ben Ochek,
Ochak,
Obrecht? Yeah,
Ochak.
sorry. I watch him. But that being said, and forgive me if he ever watches this and I didn't know his last name. But they exist for a reason, and their followers are still diehards in that respect for what is trending for them. So I don't know. I think as far as conflict is concerned, though, I think it sucks for everyone, and we do need. There's never going to be an easy fix, but we do need to figure something out. It's we could compare and contrast with fish or just in general, but you know how we always say made in the USA, and if it's made here it's going to be better and it stays here in this country. It goes the same way for fish. If you want to save money on this industry, then you gotta keep it here. And we're already 3 years behind almost every other country in what is trending in the aquarium hobby. So we're way behind if you really think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
very much,
oh,
and I hate to say it this way, this this industry as a whole is very price sensitive.
Yep.
mhm.
So, and I think that's part of the risk. If you were like, let's breed everything in house. If I go out today and I put up infrastructure to start breeding all these fish in house, the minute that tariff changes, the minute fuel goes down, the minute I get out competed, I can tell you there's no one going to pay my price
Yep.
as soon as that price drops. My competitors now they're out competing me because they're just going to go back to doing what they were doing before.
Yep.
I'm going to get out competed that way, which is the really downside of it. And that's what stifles a lot of innovation, I think, in our hobby, knowing how much it's almost, I don't know the way to say it, but it feels very much like a race to the bottom. Like everyone's racing to beat the next person in price so they can sell more product. And it is
Yeah.
never more true anything more than saltwater. That part of the hobby is wild. it is the Wild West out there in that field, and it is never more true than in that part of our hobby, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. That's what always scares us when we're like, hey, let's go try to raise some of these fish. It's a huge investment, a lot of time. We've already tried it twice and realized we were going to get out competed real quick. And no one wanted to pay the difference. Even if the fish is larger or a better quality or a better strain, we still breed stuff in house that is competitive. There are fish that I think you could breed in house, by the way. I don't want to trash the whole thing, that I think are competitive because freight is so high. There are some species, out of all the species, there certainly are some. It's how much can you sell in a given time frame to make it profitable to hire someone? Because realistically, I would have to hire someone to do this full time, at least 1.5 people, right? So it's a 7-day-a-week job. Someone's doing it 40 and someone covers the days he's not here, at least to feed and clean and do some extra work, right? So it's a 1.5 people per, breeding style facility, right? So I don't know. I look at it both ways. I think there is a place to do it. It's just a lot of money and time to get started.
Yeah, and that's the tough
at
part.
scale. At scale, where you're trying to sell, if you're trying to sell to an LFS store, right, and you're breeding Epistos, stores aren't buying that many Epistos at one shot. You've got to have multiple stores to go to.
Yeah.
Well, you probably aren't going to sell your whole lot of Epistos, and you better have something else to go to make your drive worth it, right? If you're going to breed fish for stores, you better have 4 or 5 types of fish in that same price bracket as Epistos. So when you make your loop around to sell to stores, you actually can make something out of it. Some money worth your time is the way we look at it. Commercially, it's got to have a set volume that I know I could sell every single week. And I know, I'm not going to go get out competed tomorrow if everything goes back. If it happened to go back to normal, I would lose for sure.
And it's tough because we're in such a volatile market when it comes to our energy costs. And again, the fish food costs, there's other countries where this is so much cheaper because of whatever resources they have available to them that makes it cheaper in the first place. There's nothing, as far as I'm concerned, in the US that prices are going to go down or miraculously return to, the 2020 prices. Like, it's just never going to happen. And you're right, drop a tariff or drop fuel costs and bingo bango, it's now going to be cheaper for me to get, 150 of this fish imported rather than buy it from you, even if you are next door to me or 10 miles away from my shop. It sucks.
That's not true, because in Florida, Dan, I think, could legally hire infants. I think
Oh my
now.
God.
Am I correct on that?
Did you say infants?
Something like that. Is that the rule now? I can't remember.
No, I can hire H2A. I can hire H2A visa holders.
No,
but,
like children. It wasn't that a thing where we at one point they was talking about, hey, we're getting rid of all these people. Let's hire 14-year-olds to work in the fields. Wasn't that a thing?
You can hire your family member. Like, I can hire my child to work in my business as a family business. Yeah. That's still legal today, but I can't go out and hire somebody who's not legally allowed to work yet.
No, DeSantos was trying to make it legal. He was trying to make it legal.
Oh, I don't know about that. That's wild to me.
Yeah, no, he was trying to get it so that teenagers could work in the fields.
I don't know. My mom got me at 12 years old to work at the pizzeria, and it was kind of, if I wanted to sleep under her roof, I was working at the pizzeria.
I work at the pizzeria. I ain't picking strawberries in Florida sun at 2:00.
They're not doing that. Chick-fil-A's hiring out here. Ain't no way they're coming up to work in the fields. It is too hot out here sometimes.
Everybody's passing out. Yo, you gonna get these teenagers out there? I don't think so.
Not a prayer.
You don't have to pay them crap. The good old days. Hire children.
They were called
in the
family
coal
back
mines because they got little hands. They could get into the little pieces of coal.
Oh my god.
The good old days.
Funk busy watching the cobalt mining. That's why he's bringing that
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I don't know. Do you guys have anything else that you guys want to add, or do you guys feel like we've kind of
I'm good.
beat this horse dead?
Um, no, I think we talked about sanctions, tariff, disease, industrialization. What else? I had
Hey,
little notes that I took just in case my brain farted on me from this like mini stroke. Let's see. Was there any fun facts that I researched? Let me
hey,
see.
you go ahead
Go
and say
ahead.
that real fast. Ella Aqua, on behalf of Mexicali, because he's rude. He appreciates the $2 super chat or
Thank you. Funk's
Fox
gonna
or whatever that is.
Funk doesn't
Yeah,
have to dance on the pole no more.
yeah. I do it for fun now. I just don't do it for.
Yeah. Dan, anything else
He pays the lollipop fund.
yeah, anything else that
No,
you might want
I'm
to?
good. I think we covered quite a lot. Yeah, it's a very volatile business we're in, and it always seems to be changing. It's the craziest thing I think I've ever done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I stressed a lot with my last industry, but this is definitely I I underestimated a lot about this industry, and I kind of knew going in, like, especially because I came in like right after COVID, so I saw like the before, during, and after. But it is, like he said, this is extremely volatile. It's you're in a a fish stock
Violent,
market almost.
violent. Yeah, it's violent. People get shot, stabbed in this month, choked out.
They're coming for me.
Yeah,
Oh
they
my
choke you out
goodness.
over the last Ember Tetra. Like, old ladies fighting, hitting people. Violent.
well, I want to Funk and I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your guys' busy schedule to join us tonight. Um, I really found this interesting because it's something that I normally don't get to talk about, especially with people within the industry. So thank you so much for allowing us to have this conversation. Hopefully, you guys watching this today or in the replay also, found this en- entertaining at the least, or informative more than anything else. So I want to thank you guys for coming out and I don't know, Funk, you got something you want to add?
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, it was a good
Oh no,
time.
just thinking vibes. Vibes, you the man.
Oh, Vibes. Hey, Vibes, thank you so much for the super chat.
Eddie
Written on top
Kruger.
of a purple. Eddie Kruger.
Eddie Kruger.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. And thank you, obviously, to the chat for constantly supporting what we do. And, we'll see you guys soon. We'll try to figure something else that is also equivalently as entertaining and hopefully be able to bring it to you guys. So, with that said, thank you guys. Have a nice
Have
evening.
a
I
great
know
week, guys.
See
it's
ya.
the beginning of the week,
Bye.
so bye bye.
All right.
Let me hit the end button. Click it.
Bye,
There we
guys.
go.
You gotta click it before you stick it.